what Pete Hegseth just moments ago said, that he says that on the battlefield, the United States is winning, but he said something so much amazing to me, that all the Iranian leaders are in the bunkers. They're hiding in the bunkers. Today is the National Quds Day, they call it in Iran, and it's about the free Palestine. It's about what's going on in Palestine. We've seen all the Iranian leaders, the head of justice, chief justice, the head of parliament, the head of you know Pezeshkian was there without he was freely walking through the people. What is when you hear Pete Hegseth just trying to say something so much different, because you can watch it on TV, what's going on in Iran. You can see the officials are on streets out, and for the for this symbolic protest that is always every year they have in Iran for the free Palestine, for the people in Palestine. And what do you make of it?
Well, I don't think Pete Hegseth, frankly, has much credibility anywhere, even in the Pentagon. He has a habit of saying stupid things. But I would like to make a number of comments about this. First, let me just say that Western journalists, foreign journalists, have been in Tehran reporting during the war. There are some restrictions on their movement, obviously, because the security situation is tight. But they've been able to interview people, including some who are against the Islamic Republic. The contrast with Israel, where we have almost no reporting at all, is striking. In other words, Iran is open to the press, Israel is closed. And this caused me to think a little bit about the difference in culture in the two countries. Israel is all about seeking revenge for historical wrongs to the Jewish people of Jewish faith. Those wrongs were committed in Europe, not in the Middle East, not in the Arab world, not in Persia. In fact, Purim, the great festival last Tuesday, celebrates the events in ancient Persia, which were favorable to the Jews. So this is a striking contrast. Israel is about revenge on anybody who's not Jewish for what was done to the Jews as they see it. Iran is they are very, very sadistic about this. Iran is Shia. It celebrates contemporary victimization. The late supreme leader went to his death happily as a martyr. Iranians turn suffering into strength. Israelis turn it into hatred. Anyway, this is an observation that's on this. Let me make a broader point, however, on the military situation. Iran is being battered, of course. That is correct. And what I'm seeing is a habitual error in American military thinking and the media coverage of it, namely the confusion of battle damage with victory. We should have learned from Vietnam, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from many other contexts, that you can blow buildings up, you can destroy an economy, you can make people suffer, and that does not win you the war. The war is it is a contest of wills, and we saw in Vietnam that success was measured by the number of Vietnamese who were killed. But the war came out on their side, not ours. Same thing is happening with Iran. And here, let me draw on a historical imagine. There are quite a number of Iranians, of course, who are against the regime, who are against the Islamic Republic. And I think of the analogy of the Soviet Union under Stalin when the Germans attacked the Soviet Union. The people who were against Stalinism, who feared and loathed Stalin, nonetheless volunteered to defend the motherland, the Rodina, they call it. And I think the same thing has happened in Iran, predictably. People have rallied behind the government. They may fear and loathe the Islamic Republic, but they love their country and they are willing to defend it. So I draw these conclusions. Let me make a last point, and that is that we're entering a new phase in this war. The interception capabilities of Israel and the United States are in the process of final exhaustion. Iran, in response to this, has begun to fire its advanced heavy missiles at Israel. It basically, according to the Iranian military, they are not firing any missile with a warhead less than 1,000 kilograms of explosive. Some of them have 1,500 kilograms of explosive. Those are now striking Israel. And we, of course, have almost no reporting on that because, unlike Iran, Israel's under military censorship and trying to conceal the damage that it is suffering. So I go back to Pete Hegseth's remark. It's obviously false, not true, wishful thinking, and it reflects a confusion between inflicting damage, which seems to be an end in itself. And in other words, the violence is its own justification versus a sober assessment of what the effects of violence are, which are, of course, frightening to many people, but ultimately counterproductive. So I'm sorry, that's a lot to have responded to your question about, but I see what is happening as it's become a war of attrition. Israel posed an existential threat to Iran. Iran is now posing an existential threat to Israel. Iran's objective, tying into the solidarity with Palestinians that is celebrated today, is the decolonization of the Middle East, the removal of Israel as a factor, if possible, or its weakening to the point where it is no longer an active threat to Iran, the removal of American forces from the Persian Gulf, and Iran is prepared to suffer in order to achieve these objectives. I'm not sure how much Israelis are prepared to suffer. We will find out.
I think one of the main questions right now in the mind of Iranian people is that what is the worst thing that could happen to a nation? That's a war. That is a war that you are not willing to go to war, but someone else is bringing the war to your country in killing people, destroying everything. And that is, I think, right now, one of the crucial questions among the leadership in Iran. What can we do? Because we have to avoid these sort of attacks. We cannot get along. We cannot go with a ceasefire like what they had in June 2025. They have to come to a permanent solution. What is your understanding of that?
Well, I think you're correct. Basically, we have had a low-intensity conflict, a war by Israel on Iran that's been going on for decades, and it has included the assassination of many Iranians. It's included several attacks. It's included attacks on elements of the resistance to Israel in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Gaza, in Jordan, and Yemen. And Iran has now decided enough is enough, as you said. It is not prepared to continue with a low-intensity conflict in the future. It wants to eliminate the threat to it. And here, let me say, Iran, frankly, has been a potential threat to Israel, not a real one. I mean, Iranians have talked about the need to support the Palestinians, about the need to get rid of Israeli aggression, and so forth and so on. All the while, of course, there is a flourishing Jewish community in Iran, but this is not a religious matter. What it is about is national identity for both parties. Israel's objectives and the United States' objectives do not coincide. Israel can be quite happy about the closure of the Strait of Hormuz because its objective is the destruction of Iran. And Iran is deprived of oil revenues and weakened, just as others in the Gulf are weakened by this closure. The American interests are global, not limited to the immediate vicinity of Israel or Iran. And this war is not going well for the United States. Yes, we have the ability to continue to inflict damage on Iran. What we don't have is much ability to defend ourselves against the Iranian switch to a more active missile attack on Israel, or to open the Strait of Hormuz, or to defend the Gulf Arab states that had accommodated American bases, which are now basically destroyed. And we don't have these. We have the ability to continue an offense. We don't have an ability to continue a defense, or to demonstrate to our friends in the Gulf that we can defend them. In fact, we're demonstrating the opposite. And when you look at this war from a broader perspective, what it is doing is devaluing the military power of the United States, rather as Vietnam did. But this is in a very different context. There's no bipolar order. It's not a choice between the Soviet system and the American system. This is a multinodal order, as I like to say. Rather, I don't like the word multipolar for reasons I've explained. We are discrediting ourselves with our allies, who regard Donald Trump as crazy. Basically, he's doing great damage to them. To Japan, to South Korea, to Europeans, all of whom depend on energy from the Persian Gulf, and they're now deprived of it. And there's no, they look at Donald Trump and they see no plan for how to end the war. And they understand that the war is only going to end when Iran decides to end it, not when Netanyahu and Trump decide that. There's another issue here, and that is, nobody wants to negotiate with the United States, with Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner, because their negotiations have repeatedly proven to be cover for deceit, for deception, for attack. So I think there's a general, I have to say this, I say it with great pain, that Donald Trump and the United States government are now viewed as gangsters. There is no point in making an agreement with a gangster. He's going to take the art of the deal and make it the art of cheating you and deceiving you and damaging you, rather than reaching an agreement. The very word deal is a transactional item. It's pretty clear that this administration does not understand agreements versus deals. So a deal is something that you can change at will, and they do. What's the point of negotiating with them? So we have, in the case of the Russians, they've decided there's not going to be a negotiated settlement of the Ukraine war. It's going to be settled on the battlefield. I think Iran has reached the same conclusion. And so has Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Israelis are attempting, under cover of this war, not only to conduct a second Nakba in the West Bank, but to annex southern Lebanon. This is when you see Prime Minister Netanyahu on television talking about the criminal charges against him and moaning that someone gave him something from Bugs Bunny, and this is all it's about. That is pretty pathetic. I think he understands this is all going very badly for Israel, and it won't end well. So that is the moment we're in, and of course, Iranian solidarity with Palestine has only been increased by this attack on Iran. Finally, for Iran, for any country of a civilizational status, which Iran is, national identity is the supreme interest. You will sacrifice everything to retain your pride in yourself, your values, your civilization, your religious beliefs, your cultural identity. And that is what Israel is threatening, and that is what Iran is defending. And Iranians, unlike Israelis, cannot retreat to foreign countries from which they came. They have been there for thousands of years. They're not leaving any more than the Palestinians are willingly leaving. Israelis have second passports, many of them, and they can go abroad, and there are Jewish communities abroad which they can join, maybe. I'm not sure how welcome they will be, because many Jews abroad have nothing but disgust with what Israel has become and what it is doing. But this is an uneven contest, and in many ways, the balance of fervor rests with Iran.
Ambassador, I think we can say Donald Trump is the most pro-Israeli president in the recent history of the United States, and even pro-Netanyahu. While he's fighting a war on behalf of Israel and Netanyahu, he's begging the president of Israel to pardon Netanyahu. And after all, considering all of these calculations, all of these things that we can see on the surface, but there is a huge gap when it comes to the agenda to Iran. Donald Trump and his administration wants some sort of regime change, some sort of what they did to Venezuela. But Netanyahu and Israelis, they're seeking for the total destruction of Iran, dividing Iran in little provinces.
Well, I think you said something very important, because this war is not authorized by the US Congress. It is authorized by Benjamin Netanyahu. It does not have the support of the American people. It has the support of the Zionist lobby. And therefore, it is entirely illegitimate constitutionally and politically. And it was never going to go well. I'm not sure I would agree with you that Donald Trump is at all pro-Israeli. I think he is manipulated by Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionist lobby. I don't know that he cares at all about Israel. Certainly what he's doing is not good for Israel. It is responsive to pressure from wealthy donors on whom he depends for his political life. And there are suspicions, the Epstein files come to mind, that Israelis' intelligence has the ability to blackmail him. So on the one hand, he may be being blackmailed. On the other hand, he's dependent on the support of people like Miriam Edelson and others. So is he pro-Israel? I don't know. I don't think he's very much pro anything except himself. And so he's acting expediently. He could walk away from Israel if he thought it was in his interest. So I'm not sure I agree with you on that point. That's how he likes to portray himself. But of course, he also portrays himself as the champion of the common man. He says, well, I'm a billionaire, but I'm the champion of the working man. Really? He's not even a very good businessman. He's gone bankrupt multiple times. He seems to be aiming to take the United States into bankruptcy. This is This is a man with no moral standards, who is now seen by the world as behaving like a gangster, someone you don't want to do business with. And by the way, I understand from people in New York real estate, they didn't want to do business with him either for the same reason. He was not true to his word on anything. He was not competent. He has the most incompetent cabinet in the entire history of the United States. These people don't understand what they're doing, and they are acting entirely expediently. This war is having major strategic effects beyond the region. For many years, China has been reluctant to increase its dependence on Russian oil and gas. There's a pipeline called the Power of Siberia, which has been under discussion for a decade or more. That's now going forward because the closure of the Strait of Hormuz has given everyone an incentive to do two things: double down on non-fossil fuel renewable energy supplies. China's in a great position because it has largely eliminated its dependency on fossil fuels. Second, develop alternative supply chains. Do not depend on the Persian Gulf. That's bad news, actually, for the Gulf Arabs in the long run, because it means the market for their hydrocarbons is going to be reduced. So we're drawing the Chinese and the Russians closer together, despite their reluctance. There's an offsetting effect with India. Scott Bessent, the American Treasury Secretary, has suspended sanctions on Russian oil for India, this is going to drive Russia and India closer together. So, what is this doing? I notice you're Brazilian, and my prediction of the U.S. effort to dominate the Western Hemisphere by violence, which is the Trump version of the Monroe Doctrine, has been that it would cause major countries in South America to arm themselves against the United States. Brazil has just done a deal with South Africa to combine arms production. South Africa has capabilities that were developed during the apartheid era and which continue, which make it a very desirable partner for Brazilian industry if you're going to increase your defense budget. I think the reality is, and here I will end, but with a few exceptions, South America has not been the source of major interstate warfare. There have been wars. There was the War of the Gran Chaco in the 1920s, which cost Paraguay, the Chaco region, which is part of Bolivia now. There have been skirmishes. There was a war early on between Peru and Chile, which Chile won. That deprived Bolivia of access to the sea. There have been skirmishes between Ecuador and Peru and Ecuador and Colombia and so forth. But there have been no major wars, really. And South America has been a zone of peace. People didn't have to worry about building up robust defenses. Now they do, because of who? My country. This is foolish on any scale. We're seeing the deterioration of U.S. relations with allies who don't agree with this war. We're seeing the intimidation of the Gulf Arabs who realize that the United States cannot and is not intending to defend them, but only to attack Iran. We're seeing great damage to Israel, more than is depicted in our press, because our press follows the Israeli censorship rules to its disgrace. We're seeing Iran gravely damaged, and those people in Iran who hoped for foreign intervention, and there were some, now understand that this is not, an air war is not a path to regime change, and that by asking for intervention or concurring in it, they have placed themselves and their families in jeopardy and damaged their country. So this is not going well.